tell you though, is we talk a lot about things like Waco. I'm sorry, not Waco, Ruby Ridge. Now there's a great example. Yeah, there's a great example of what happened there. It's a fascinating dynamic of where you had local law enforcement just almost overran, but they let themselves be overran by the FBI. And you had a United States Marshal, which was from Idaho. You had the Idaho State Police, who kind of went, ooh, FBI, ooh, ooh. And local county sheriff, who probably all his whole department was less than what was standing in line for the urinal or the porta potty. There's a great study in making sure that, and that's where I think your sheriff comes in. That wouldn't happen today. I can tell you that. That wouldn't happen today, even up there in North Idaho, because things have changed a lot. An awareness. One of the things we do in the Sheriff's Association is really try to educate. We've got 8 new sheriffs in Idaho. It's not very many comparatively. Really try to educate new sheriffs on what the law is, what the authority is, and the message is kind of pick up the phone. If somebody would have picked up the phone there and talked to a voice of reason somewhere, I don't think Ruby Ridge would have happened. But the FBI came in, and it was a different FBI then. I can tell you, I've been in this business 29 years. I've been at the Sheriff's Office 29 years. I started as a jail deputy, I came up through the ranks. The FBI of today is different than the FBI then. Then it was much more militaristic, and what they did was wrong. But local law enforcement kind of let them do it too. Shouldn't have.
But that's the fear of today. Is what you're going to do. This is our county.
Well, and again, you try to say it on a hypothetical. So I guess back to the, if I look at it and I say, does probable cause exist? Did a judge look at this and find that the evidence existed to properly issue this search warrant? And were the tactics appropriate? There's a difference between going in and saying, you stop and put those guns down and don't fulfill that court order that you just got issued. Or sometimes it's going up and saying, this ain't cool. You got to do it a different way.
But that's the point. If you disagree, you already said that you only have to enforce the federal laws you want to enforce. So therefore, if you disagree, it's still your county. As long as I have faith that this is your county, and these are your people to protect, and you work for them, then I think issues are irrelevant.
But I guess I don't know what we're talking about. So if you say, if I went in and looked and, what is that hypothetical? That a federal judge, who by the way, all of our federal judges are citizens right here next to you and I, they live right next to us. They didn't come from Washington, D.C. They're Idahoans. If a federal judge signed that search warrant and I said, oh my gosh, do I so terribly disagree? I suppose hypothetically there's things that I could do, but it's back to that Second Amendment debate. Let's not take the 1%, it's not even 1%, let's not take the 1/100th of 1% possibility and say, oh, that 1/100th of 1% possibility, Gary Raney, the sheriff of Ada County, is going to protect me, so therefore I can just kind of sit back on my butt and not do anything. Let's take the 99 and 99 100% possibility and say, let's make sure we're always paying attention to government. Part of what I really want to talk to you about was pay attention to government, because there's a lot of things that are really screwed up right now. Let's get to it.
So we have actually a responsibility too, is what you're saying.
Absolutely.
I'm a neighborhood watch, so I'm there.
Thank you.
Well, you know who I am.
And several of us ex-military guys would certainly be volunteer to be trained up by you.
I'm going to make it work.
To be, that's okay, I got the audio. You have to talk real quick. To get trained up as a school safety, concealed carry, just, 2-hour shifts, just be at a school, and so we can run down to a classroom if we have to. I guess Maricopa County's doing something like that. I was hoping Ada County would do something similar.
We're in the planning process. We're doing 2 things. We're working with the schools right now because we need a plan. We need not just a lot of well-meaning people going out carrying guns around schools, because we're going to get some calls saying, holy cow, there's people walking around the school with guns. What do you think that's going to lead to?
It's concealed carry. Concealed carry.
Well, you're just like me. You hope it's concealed. Every once in a while somebody notices.
Yeah.
Posse or something that you
You know, that it's a big debate right now in the legislature. So, who should be doing that? You know, if we're going to protect our schools, who should it be? Should it be school resource officers? Should it be volunteers? Should it be teachers and custodians? There's a bill right now in the legislature to allow teachers to be secretively armed.
What do you think?
I think they should.
Yeah.
What's your opinion?
In regards to our children.
Well, I think it's going to pass. Parents are going to throw a fit.
I wouldn't.
So I don't have a problem with any law-abiding citizen being armed. My concern about it is sort of how do you do that? And probably a few of you in here, maybe all of you in here, pack concealed weapons. Yeah, every once in a while, it's good to have, but they're kind of a pain in the butt. We can all see that teacher putting it in the desk drawer because it was too heavy. It didn't fit in the waistband that day or on the ankle or whatever. And a kid getting a hold of it. That's my fear. So I'm not against really anybody who's law-abiding and has proper training of being armed, but I want to make sure that we have a plan so that whoever that is, it's safe and it's locked up. And there's a variety of ideas. In some places, it's okay, you're going to carry the concealed weapon, and then the current bill in front of the legislature is the only person you have to tell is me, the sheriff of your county. In other places, it's all right, you are all properly trained in the use of a weapon. Now here's where we're going to have the weapons locked up, and if something happens, one of you go to the lockbox and get the weapon out to protect the rest.
Isn't it going to be county by county? Is that what they're looking at? More local control and decisions made by
It's so up in the air right now. You know, an armed, law-abiding citizenry is a safer citizen. But there's so many emotions because you can imagine just the way that I think you and I all feel about the Second Amendment. There's a lot of teachers, there's a lot of parents who do not want their teachers carrying a weapon.
There's actually teachers that do carry weapons in Idaho, and they have special clause to do
Right,
that.
right.
I talked to Mark Hagedorn, he's one of our state legislators, and he came and spoke on that to our chamber this last month. And he was talking about the bill's going to come down, and what they're looking at is local control of.
But they've already got it. It's
well, but yeah, but they will make it more obvious that that's what's going to happen. That
yeah,
that's what he wants, and
it's totally
I guess
different
he's
here. I mean,
in
the
that,
bottom line answer is nobody knows.
Yeah.
I think everybody agrees. Let's do something coordinated that makes sense. Everybody wants school safety. I think there's a number of different ways to get there, and we just don't know what's happening. But the schools are involved, the teachers are involved, parents are involved, law
So
enforcement is
basically
involved,
it won't be-
counselors.
45 minutes.
gun-free zones anymore. I mean, what you're doing with that is basically saying,
Okay.
hey, there's nothing here.
Well, there's maybe the better bill that's in the legislature right now is an enhanced concealed weapons permit. So that's what would sort of eliminate the gun-free zones for those permit holders. It would also give reciprocity in more states across the nation.
Good.
So
That's awesome.
yeah. Yes.
A lot of these shootings come from people that are on drugs or going off
Mentally.
drugs. And a lot of the drugs have been introduced to these people in the schools. And the teachers, they give them authority to identify who needs them, and they work with the drug companies to get the kids the drugs. And the drugs are similar to the ones that they use in the military. When those guys come off of that, when they come back, they have problems.
Psychotropics.
And they ventilate a lot of people. So the kids are seem to doing the same thing too. Is there anything they can do to stop that, to do something else?
Well, it's a greater issue, and one of the greatest issues. I was testifying to the a joint session of Senate Judiciary and Rules and House Judiciary Rules the other day, and we were explaining the criminal justice process and how it works. One of the senators asked me, he said, "What's the gap in the criminal justice system?" And I said, "Mental health," and it is.
Huge.
I got 1,000 of your friends and neighbors sitting right over there in the Ada County Jail. And about 83% of them have a substance abuse issue underlying their crime. And what we call, and particularly the criminal justice system, is a co-occurring disorder of substance abuse and mental health. But it's a chicken or the egg issue. Did the substance abuse cause the mental health, which it can, Or did the mental health issue cause self-medication leading into substance abuse? The whole point is that we have mental health issues in the community, particularly paranoid schizophrenics. There is a degree out there that we call psychotics. And we're not going to do much with that. There are a lot of paranoid schizophrenics who suffer from that disease. It's the voices in the head combined with the paranoia of somebody's going to do something to them, who are in this community right now, who are about to commit a crime against somebody. And I don't know Adam Lanza's diagnosis. He did have mental illness, pretty severe mental illness. The things that he did, both in killing his mother and going up to the school, I mean, nobody's going to know, because he's dead. But again, in getting the briefing and seeing 29 years of mental health issues leading to this level of violence, there's a lot of them that could be prevented with good mental health. And it's whether drugs, psychotropics, may be the answer. Or maybe they're part of the problem. And the whole Ritalin, the ADHD, Ritalin, do we give it? Do we not give it? There's a lot of things left to be determined. But Idaho's not a good state when it comes to dealing with mental health. We're a very poor state when it comes to dealing with mental health. The 4th highest suicide rate in the nation.
Now, isn't there some bill or something, heard some underlying currents that Governor Otter's planning to put in a mental health institution?
He set aside cash.
He set aside cash for it?
It's basically a mental health prison. In my opinion, it's
Well, I
too
think
late.
they were trying to make a choice whether it was a prison or whether it was going to be an actual mental health care facility.
It is a prison facility.
It is a prison facility.
That would hold civil commitments.
Okay.
So, I don't know how much time you have, so cut me off.
Well,
So
I mean,
going back in time,
You want to get to your piece of paper there.
if you go back in time, most of you in this room can probably remember when Idaho had mental hospitals. One over here in Nampa, State Hospital South. The movement and the trend of dealing with mental health was to do away with those. So we pretty much have done away with those. The one right over there in Nampa, off the freeway, is no longer functional. To get somebody into Blackfoot is very difficult and very short term. So, too late, they're already in the criminal justice system. Even like in the Ada County Jail, we run 70 to 80 chronically mentally ill cases at one time. I'm not talking about mental illness, because a lot of it's episodic. Chronically mentally ill, before they came in, after they get out. And when they walk out the door, they pretty much have nothing. So when they get convicted of a crime, some of them are too difficult to deal with in the general population of the prison. They could go to the mental health facility. There are others who are committed. Remember Joseph Delling?
Yeah.
So Delling was a pretty good example of a degree of mental illness. They had a competency to stand trial, but a degree of mental illness where if we would have been able to catch him before he committed those crimes, he could, under state statute, have been committed to the Department of Health and Welfare for psychiatric evaluation. Become kind of a mental ward of the state. There's no place really other than Blackfoot, and it's not adequate. It's like kind of like the criminally mentally ill, but it's gone through court. And you could say Joseph Duncan's probably another one. That's a federal prisoner, but a state prisoner. And they would be there for crimes. I'm saying there's a point before those crimes where people are psychotic. It's that small level of psychotic or extreme paranoid schizophrenic where this facility would hold them.
Okay.
All right, let's go to the agenda here, his agenda, and so he can get out of here and we can get on with business.
Okay, I gotta shift gears here, so.
Yeah.
And I'll stay. If you guys have time, I'll take the questions. To me, it's important that you're informed. I did the piece in the Statesman because every word of that is fact except the one sentence that says, I am a strong supporter of the Second Amendment. That's my personal opinion. My job is not to pander to anybody. I didn't come here. What I'm about to share with you. You have people come here and say, I'd really like to kiss your butt because I want you to endorse me later for some office. Not why I'm here. I'm not asking for an endorsement. I'm not here to kiss your butt. I'm here to give you some information.
He actually sent me an email and says, I'm waiting until after the election to bring this to you. So.
Yeah. So, let me talk about this, and I'll give you the foundation. So, I grew up over in Caldwell. Came over here to go to college. I never thought I'd be sheriff. I didn't want to be sheriff. That's like a political thing. Came over here, started a little more than 29 years ago with the Sheriff's Office. Great organization, very, very proud of it. Came up through the ranks. But particularly when I got up to the ranks of administration, being the undersheriff, I was the undersheriff for a couple of years. I'm in my 9th year of being sheriff now. I get so frustrated because I'm a taxpayer too. And I see all the silliness that goes on in government. And I've increasingly become really irritated. And the difference is, I think now I have a perspective of what really happens that causes you and I, as taxpayers, to have to pay so much money. And so I want to take you back. How many of you are private business owners, or have been? All right, so I want you to imagine that 200 years ago, you opened a realty business. You were going to sell cabins and saloons or whatever. You opened a realty business in downtown Boise. And at that time they said, okay, you get to set up on this block. And you can open your realty business and you can sell real estate within this 4 or 5 block area. And over here somebody else is going to set up their real estate office and they're going to sell that 4 or 5 block area. And, you know, as time went by, in the 200 years that followed, you got to expand a little bit over this way, but you still got contained only in your blocks. And you couldn't really reach out, and if somebody called you up and said, hey, I've got some properties over in Nampa that I'd really like you to sell, that's not your turf. You can't sell anything over there. How would your business be today?
Better.
Okay.
Now the reason I say that because I get to control that square mile, nobody else can. So everything you have to, I'm good at gym, just like a stockbroker, man. I'm good at gym.
Well,
but the answer is yes.
You
limit me from the license that says the whole state of Idaho.
if we ran all businesses that way, how would we do?
It would not be.
We'd fail.
Price.
No,
We'd fail.
crony capitalism.
Here's the issue. Our form of government was set up, actually more than 200 years ago. And we adopted it here locally 150 years ago. And it's not changed. So you're about government? 150 years ago, this very moment, what county were you standing in? I've only ever had one person
Boise County.
get it right. Nope.
Milwaukee County,
Nope.
Jim.
Nope.
Idaho.
It's not one of the bordering counties, can you? Is it? It's not one of the bordering counties. It's been in that county changed name.
Idaho County. Oh, what was it?
Actually, I can just barely say 150 years ago. 150 years ago, you were standing in Alturas County.
Yeah, Turris was dropped.
Yep.
In favor
They're
of-
one of 13 original counties in Idaho. They separated out from them, but the form of government. So my point is that at a local level of government, we established counties. I think the last county was established in 1933. And within those, we established cities. So the state's a little bit bigger, but let me focus just on local government and take it as far as you want. So you have Ada County and you have 6 cities within Ada County. So you have 7 different governments. What are they doing differently?
Not much.
They're all here for the same thing.
Public health and safety.
Between Ada and Canyon County, there's 2 counties. There's 14 cities. That means there's 16 different clerks, 16 different treasurers, 16 different HR functions, 16 different IT functions, 16 different purchasing functions. There's 6 public emergency medical service agencies.
Man, you're going
All
with
doing the
Sheriff
same
Mack
thing?
now. You're going with Sheriff Mack now. isn't it?
No, I think Sheriff Mack's self-aggrandizing.
I understand we have 44 counties when we have 7, 3 times the number.
5 highway districts, plus the State Department of Transportation. 5 library districts, plus 7 cities, all with their own library systems. 10 law enforcement agencies. 13 public school districts that we're all paying duplicative administration and purchasing and all of that. 17 fire districts. And how many irrigation districts or water companies between Ada and Canyon County?
So,
Isn't there?
23.
66.
Oh, okay.
Wow.
66
Being
different
more than
irrigation districts or water cutters.
It K in the 80s, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
The two counties combined.
There's a lot.
Business.
So it's all set up on a system about it's mine. You got the Caldwell suing the, I think it's the Pioneer Irrigation District now. This is territoriality. And the way that we get elected, when you elected me, I think you all live in Ada County, when you elected me, there's a sense that you elected me to fight for Ada County. And if you live in Boise City, when you elect Mayor Beater and the council members, there's a sense that they're there to make Boise City better. And my point of all of this that I'm about to talk about is that that doesn't work for you anymore. It doesn't work for society to have people whose success is defending their own turf. Did you read the article in the paper, I think it was like 2 days ago, about the roadway infrastructure in Idaho and how aging it's getting, the cost that it will take to maintain it, let alone build anything new? You can look right now and read that article and say, we're headed toward a transportation system bankruptcy, or we're going to continue to loan ourselves into even more financial crisis.
You speak from garbage funds.
We already went down that path.
There's no more garbage.
It's done.
There's no more garbage.
No.
And we still have a lot of the same problem. Because it's all about let's build something new. Let's create something new. Rather than let's work together. And in 2008, when the economy started to turn down, and I'll talk about public safety, I was hopeful that, you know what, this budget cutback could drive us to work together better. And I'm sad to see that it didn't. In fact, just the same, I think it made people a little bit more defensive of their turf. The chiefs and I, and we had great relationships. So there are 3 chiefs of police, and then I am the police agencies for 3 cities. So there's Boise, Meridian, and Garden City all have their own incorporated policing function, standalone agencies. And then I am the police agency not only for unincorporated Ada County and the Sheriff's Office, but the police for Eagle, Star, and CUNA. The chiefs and I get together, we have like breakfast and we go over business and stuff every month. Relations are great. We've already said, if it was up to us, we'd have 1 police agency in Ada County. It'd be so much more efficient. Rather than have to beg, borrow, and steal when there's a big crime and say, oh, you know, there was a big homicide, so I've got to pull some of these property crime detectives and investigate burglaries to help out. Man, we'd have such great resources if we were just all in the same room.
State and county, then, is that what you're saying?
No, I don't think we're ready for state level.
No,
Or just have state only and
state
county. Just counties.
I don't
plus the
even
state.
label it. I mean, I don't know that it has to be county, and I'm not saying the sheriff. If we had one law enforcement agency in Ada County, I don't think it's up to me, and I don't think it's up to the chiefs to decide, is the sheriff in charge of it? Or do we appoint a chief and relegate the sheriff to run the jail and civil process? It's not, you decide. Because it's not going to happen in my lifetime. I mean, I'll be retired. I'll have 33 years in at the end of this term. I don't know if I'm going to run another one or not. Probably not. You know, 33 years, I'm going to do something fun. But if it was one law enforcement agency, we'd be reducing that duplication so incredibly much. We have 2 SWAT teams.
Are you thinking of a similar circumstance as the Salt Lake City area?
The Unified Police Department could be. That's a model. So the difference is you've got like, say, Las Vegas Metro. So Clark County and the city of Las Vegas. And it can be anything we want as citizens. They went together and just put together, under the sheriff, Las Vegas Metro. So it's just one sheriff's office. In Salt Lake County, you have the sheriff's office, but then a number of cities separately went together, not everybody, but a number of them went together, I think it's 8, and formed the Unified Police Department, no, the Police Department of the Greater Salt Lake, something like that. So they all share governance. The sheriff said, I don't have to be the supreme allied commander of all the policing function. I'll work alongside you and give you a say in your policing function. My point is, it can be whatever you want. But here, between Ada and Canyon, let me just run down this, if you will. 2 SWAT teams, 2 crime analysis functions. This is just Ada. 3 sets of narcotics teams, 3 crime lab evidence collection units, 4 separate property crime detective units, 4 training functions, 4 HR functions, 4 crime prevention functions, 4 IT functions, 4 purchasing functions, and duplicative vehicles. I have extra vehicles sitting on the lot in case one breaks down. Boise Police has extra vehicles sitting on the lot in case one breaks down. Garden City does. Meridian does. What if we didn't have to have so many of those?
Now, don't you already do a little of that? Because the city and the county, I mean, I worked in the neighborhood watch. I helped years ago with Craig Huntsman. And the city and the county worked very closely. In fact, there was one city and county and they worked in the same office.
They don't.
And I worked for both. Oh, they don't do that anymore.
City Police moved out on Emerald. Ran out of space, but it caused them to duplicate a lot of services.
Okay.
Just in this last year, they took what was a consolidated function and separated that and added a duplicative function of the record-keeping system.
Because that really worked well. Because
It
kept the conversations right there. In the
What really
office.
happened, and it was a lot better then, and Chief and I agree, we grew out of space. Rather than saying, you know, let's find more space here and stay together and unify this, it was separated. No fault of the police department.
Yeah.
It was separated, and now all these functions become duplicative. Now here's the point as a citizen. So by a resident of the city you live in, you can live in a city in Ada County and actually pay $365 each for your policing function, or you can live in a city in Ada County and pay $66 each. Are you getting any different service? You're not. The solution rates are all about the same. Victim services are all about the same. It's the duplication and all the infrastructure. I mean, all of the things that we should be working together on. And we are. Again, it's not relationships. It's not turf. It's that when we have 4 different functions in 4 different areas, there are actually 6 in Ada County, in 6 different areas, we create lots of duplication. Law enforcement in Ada County is well over $100 million a year. Yes, sir.
Okay, you've told us what the problem is. Can you
Don't
tell
jump
us-
to the solution.
Can you tell us if anybody is looking for a solution to the problem?
No. No, they're not.
And why is that? Because
Let me
nobody
close with that thought, because I got one more big point I want to make, and it's one of my better ones, so let me make it. So, you fall off your roof and you break your hip, right? But you're able to reach down to your trusty cell phone and you call 911. You say, I've fallen off my roof, I've broken my hip, nobody else is at home, and I need somebody to take me to the hospital. Who's going to come take you to the hospital?
Ada County paramedics.
An ambulance, right? For every call in Ada County, what does that ambulance service cost you as a taxpayer? Whether you use it or not, as a taxpayer.
It's about $500 a ride.
$596.
Per ride.
For every call in Ada County, you're also going to get what?
You're going to get a lot of people who aren't. there's
Well,
no-
a fire engine.
You're going to get a fire engine.
And maybe a police officer.
Why do you get a fire engine?
So
Because
they
they're
can
first
wash
responders.
the DNA away.
They're first responders. They're paramedics.
Why?
They're
Because
paramedics.
there's a struggle between the paramedics and the fire.
CYA.
It's territory.
Yeah.
So there's only 6 medical conditions where response time matters. If I'm having a heart attack, send whoever, I don't care, send the world.
Stroke.
Because stroke, choking, whoever gets there first, we stand a better chance of saving a life. You fall off the roof and you break your hip, there's no medical reason to have a second unit respond. In one city in Ada County, what do you think that, it's a big city that should go unnamed, what do you think that fire truck cost you now as a taxpayer?
It's a couple $1,000, isn't that right?
$2,485 a call. In another city in Ada County, it's almost $4,000 a call.
Really? Is that
Wow.
Boise?
Cuna.
CUNA because they're so
It's
close?
not, it's not about the cities, it's not CUNA.
Oh,
It's
no.
just distance.
Yeah.
No.
Must be Boise.
Anyway,
You don't like your property tax bill? Tell me how much goes for schools. Tell me how much goes to the fire district. You don't know.
It's too much.
Yeah.
For schools.
So my point, sir, now
Taxing.
let me come back to the more of the closer. And I guess wrapping it up. So between it, well over $100 million in law enforcement in Ada County. Add in fire and EMS, well over $200 million of your money. Add in Canyon County, we're far, far over $300 million. If there was one, let's just take law enforcement. Let's just take that $110, $20 million in law enforcement. I'm telling you right here, if there was one law enforcement agency, and I'm not saying it's sheriff, I am not, because it's not going to happen. I'm not going to see it. I'm saying we should do something different. One law enforcement agency, we could easily hand back 10 and I think $20 million that could go in your pocket, or it could go to education, or it could go to mental health, or whatever you want it to be as taxpayers. Add in Canyon County, and you've easily got $30 million that could go back to the taxpayers. Just in public safety. But the system of creating turf constituencies, and not as citizens requiring this, Sheriff, what are you doing to work with the other police agencies? What are you doing to work with Canyon County? Why are you duplicating these services? If one person has a really cool, big SWAT armored vehicle, why does somebody else need to have the same thing just so it's got their name on the side of it? It's stupid.
If you're talking about reducing 300 million by $30 million, that's 10%.
Yes, sir?
You're really not talking about the true economies of scale, because if you were, you'd be able to reduce by 20 to 25% in most
I agree.
cases.
Yeah, I agree. I think I'm being conservative. I'm not trying to be outlandish.
He's a Republican.
Yeah, your point
Now-
is well taken, and I don't really have a problem with it. The only problem I would have is somewhat citizens' rights. The county sheriffs are elected by the people, working for the people, where city is appointed by some city council or mayor. So that then begins to rub over on all the other issues that they do.
You can have a sheriff in charge of it. That's the way, actually, it's in the West, that's the way most places go, is to decide, we want the sheriff in charge of it, because we want to be able to oust him if we don't like it.
Well, it's the big government,
It's-
push for government control, we're sort of afraid of, so, you know.
I think my point is not that, like, who's got to own it? My point is, what we got to do is stop the duplication. Even if we don't consolidate, I think we should consolidate.
Well, that's been my argument on the schools. I've argued that one before.
Oh my gosh, yes.
You just said 13 school districts and 2 counties. You should have 44 school districts and 1 state superintendent, 1 superintendent per district. I mean, there are 13, there's like 10 or 11 in Canyon County by itself, with anywhere from 3 to 7 superintendents, well over 100 grand apiece, trying to make decisions.
And it's a different argument. It's at least my take. You can have yours. Number one reason for not consolidating school districts?
Turf.
Sure.
In what form? Truly the number one reason?
No.
Because next year the Badgers got to play the Wolverines again.
Yeah, but they can still do that and be
Well, if I get your message correctly, your message to us is the conversation is needing to be had regarding this issue of consolidation. And that, I think that's a great message for us. And I really appreciate you coming and indulging our Second Amendment questions and letting us know where you're coming from there.
So, coming back to Alturas County, wasn't Alturas County a lot larger county? It was 4 or 5.
Alturas County went from what is generally Alturas, it was not quite that far, all the way to the Oregon border.
Okay.
In early 1863, then Boise County was formed, which cut out from Alturas County and went all the way to the Oregon border. When you say, why isn't Boise City in Boise County? Because for most of 1863 it was. Or 1864, I'm sorry. 1864 was when Boise County was formed early. Ada County was formed December 22nd of 1864, and then Canyon County afterwards. So it just chopped sections off going to the Oregon border. So, yeah, wrapping up my point, and I don't want to take more of your time, is hold us accountable. Ask us why we need these things, and not so much on the pennies. It's easy to say the pennies and nickels. You know, why are you paying $1.35 for this when I can get it for 89 cents? say, no, why are you spending $2 million for that? And the problem is in government, we talk about government transparency. Government, I'm not talking about me, give me that minute. Government doesn't want to be transparent. Because if we're really transparent, you know what the hell we're spending money on.
It's true.
And there is example after example after example that goes on a regular basis where you don't even notice that a city, and I see it in public safety, decides, all right, you know, we'll go spend $300 million or $300,000. We'll go spend $300,000 to create that with nobody saying, how's that service to me as a citizen going to be better? And it happens all the time. That's what I'm
Well,
telling you.
your argument on consolidated services, one reason when I went over to Middleton, they didn't form their own police department. They contracted to the county because it was about 60% less than what they could do it themselves.
3 lowest cost in Ada County are my 3 contract cities, because we don't duplicate all of the support services.
So that's why Star and CUNY didn't do it either.
Right.
Yeah.
But Garden City's always had one, and so they're unwilling to give it out.
It won't take so much time.
No, you're fine. There was a lot of questions, and I appreciate you coming in.
Are we clear on the gun thing?
You got a card?
Yeah.